You went to Cambridge, and what happened to you in 1980 when you were there?
Well, I was studying very hard. It was a bit of a shock being from Nova Scotia in Cambridge, alone, away from my family, my friends, having a new faith, having a new vocation, I thought. And under the stress of the workload, I had a manic episode and developed bipolar disorder and was hospitalized just outside of Cambridge for 2 weeks.
And then what happened?
Well, I was eventually I returned to Nova Scotia, and I was hospitalized again in Halifax, and was in and out of hospitals until 1983.
And then eventually you moved to East Walton on the shores of the Minas Basin to live with your family there. How would you describe your state of mind at that time?
Well, I was stabilized on medication then. I was unemployed, had a lot of free time, returned to my roots, which were architecture, gave theology the boot, more or less, and my love was architecture. So I decided to start sketching an ideal city in the middle of the Minas Basin.
So let's talk about that ideal city. What did it look like?
Well, it was just off Cambridge in Hants County on the Minas shore. And I thought of it more or less as a utopian community, like a retirement colony composed of archaeological reproductions of the major monuments of Cambridge and some of Oxford.
And this was on an artificial island, right, in the Minas Basin?
That's correct. It was on an artificial island. It was like a mandala city. It was composed of parts of the major older colleges of Cambridge: King's, Trinity, St. John's, Trinity Hall, Emmanuel, Pembroke, and so on. There are 31 colleges in Cambridge. And I decided to have them reproduced. My favorite place in the world, which was Cambridge. I had been happiest in Cambridge, also the saddest as well.
Did you also imagine yourself going to this place and spending time there?
Oh yes, that was where I was going. Well, that was where I was going to live and be happy, as I had been in Cambridge. So I fantasized about an ideal utopian city in which to live.
So let's look at a couple of these drawings, and you brought some in today.
Sure.
So these are on 8.5 by 11?
8.5 by 11 sheets. Mm-hmm. There are 360. This is a site plan of my circular mandala city in the middle of the Minas Basin here, due north of Cambridge, Hants County, in the middle, opposite Cape London, opposite Parisborough, opposite Cambridge, Hants County. It was the city. It was an archipelago, really, of islands and canals, a combination of Oxford, Cambridge, Venice, and Nova Scotia.
Wow, all in one island.
Yes. Doesn't make much sense now. Here I'm trying to work out the geometry of the city, canals and the courtyards. Here is King's College, an early sketch of an idealized King's College. Part of the idea was to have reflected versions of the colleges as well as they are now, but reflected as if you go through a looking glass. This is a mirror image, a mirror sketch of King's College, Cambridge. The whole portfolio is just doodles. It's just doodling. I'm sketching for my own pleasure. It's on paper, which is sheets of unemployment lists, which were sent to me when I was looking for a job. Rather than throw out the paper, I used the backs of the paper to sketch.
So now, 30 years later, these drawings and illustrations are going to be on display at Cambridge. How important is this show to you?
Well, it's a vindication in a way. It's a going back, although I'm not going back for the exhibit. The people at King's College, Cambridge, have liked what I have produced, and they emailed me back in March that they wished to exhibit them in their art center. It's kind of a continuation of the healing, which began with the illness in 1980. Healing takes place over decades. In fact, over one's whole life, really. Even well people are healing, getting better, growing in maturation, etc., over the whole lifetime. So this is part of the process of living and finding wellness.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Fliss.